What's up, guys? This is Acid Root, so I'm gonna get to reviewing a suggested review that someone wanted. Big brain on music, so this is Nickelback's "Here and Now." This came out way back in 2011, and I think, yeah, it's one of the more recent Nickelback albums. It's better than some of the reception I've seen on it, and it has a good amount of promotion, which kind of gives it some good vibes. So we'll just kind of get into this and kind of pick it apart and see what's up with it. So yeah, there were five singles. Really, the album that came before this, Dark Horse, which I reviewed, I think back in 2017. That was a massive album. Really, it was kind of at the turn of the decade, the previous decade, and I don't remember it too well, but both their 2005 and 2008 albums went multi-platinum, and that was kind of the thing. I mean, some of the consensus on Nickelback, that the hate that they get, I think comes from those two albums, but this one might catch the flack. But I really can't see as to what, if you already hate them, what would make you hate them on this project, because it does have serviceable rock music on here, and it does have it more often. The only real problem I would think that comes from Nickelback is just the emotion of the ballads, which kind of veers into, like, I would say, I don't know, it somehow, maybe it's overly done, overkill. I guess overkill would be a way of putting it. But those kinds of ballads are on this project, but the rock on here is actually, it does have uh, solid moments. So that's kind of the situation. So we'll start by talking with the singles and stuff. So the first song that came out, that these kind of came in conjunction, "When We Stand Together" and then "Bottoms Up," both came out before this album came out. And "When We Stand Together," originally I didn't like this song, but it's really not a ballad. I mean, that's the situation. To me, it just kind of feels like a song you'd hear at work. I mean, that's kind of the situation there. I mean, Imagine Dragons kind of does this sort of thing also. And, just an entryway, you don't hear songs like "Bottoms Up" most of the time at your job or something like that. It's going to be just makeshift and uh, uh, kind of plain, sometimes pop rock oriented music. And I didn't really have a problem with supposing Nickelback kind of did that sort of thing. I wouldn't think to expect that from them. Most of the time they used to do alternative metal and in some cases pop rock, but for that sort of stuff it works. And grunge and that sort of thing. But yeah, "When We Stand Together," I did like the idea behind that song, and it was catchy. I mean, once again, it's not metal, but this is kind of like entryway. This is probably one of the first Nickelback songs, like, depending upon who you are, that you might hear. And "Bottoms Up" is a nice one. This one kind of sounds more like it would be bar music, but I really like the idea behind that song. I mean, it's basically, I mean, most rock songs are not just about getting like completely destroyed. I mean, they allude to it, but this one just was this plain saying, "Hey, let's get fucked up tonight," that sort of thing. And I did like it. There's actually a handful of bar songs on here. It seemed like Chad Kroeger was kind of he was going out on the scene on some of these things. "Midnight Queen," "Gotta Get Me Some," and I would even say "Everything I Want to Do." I'll have those same type of vibes as "Bottoms Up," so that's kind of the situation there. It is a good single. It's fun. It's lively, so it does have a nice ring to it. Um, "This Means War" is the next one. This one felt like it probably should have been the first single, but I know why they didn't pick it. So, just standard rock, something that you would probably just hear on a regular day on rock radio. And that's another one I, didn't have problems with. I mean, really, I'd probably say it's an easy listen. So, I mean, that's basically three for three when it comes to the singles. But then to get into like some of these other ones, the last two singles happen to be the Nickelback that's I would have thought that kind of got the complaints, the stuff that just the flack comes from, and that sort of stuff, the teasing, the flack, the scrutiny, yeah, that sort of stuff. So Lullaby, didn't really like that one. Uh, there's a series. There's only like 4 songs like that on here, but uh, wasn't my cup of tea. I mean, really, I mean, it just depend. It has more of a message in the song, you would think, and it's just more for like a ballad and kind of a rainy day type song. This kind of mellow and more thought out, but I didn't enjoy that. And it was the same thing with "Trying Not to Love You." It's kind of like one of those "How You Remind Me" songs, but you know, so I just would have to say, yeah. I mean, obviously, and that's the thing. They have to sell this album to people. So that's kind of the situation, for the situations that some of this stuff calls for. Is like not every single person is trying to go out for a night at the bar and, just making mellow kind of, makeshift music and that sort of stuff. I mean, some of it actually has some meaning to it. So, I mean, for me to say, I mean, I'm still not going to score it extremely high just because I didn't like the song. But that does not necessarily mean that it sucks ass and it's, just crappy or something like that. I didn't vibe with it, gel with it. So that's kind of the situation. So, but those are just the things about those type of songs. So out of the 5 singles, I'm not really going to complain about Promotion just because it had as many as it did. And this is really only an 11-song album. So that's kind of the situation there. But yeah, so we'll talk about some of the other songs that I recommend to you. Basically, a lot of those bar songs I was mentioning earlier are going to be highlights here. Even if you're not trying to go out, I mean, if you're just having like a PlayStation get together or something like that, just some sort of vibe there. I mean, there's plenty of, good tracks just to get up and move around to. So I'll recommend. So some of those like Midnight Queen, Gotta Get Me Some, Everything I Want to Do, Kiss It Goodbye. I mean, these are other highlights. So, yeah, so I'm just going to recommend the 7 songs out of 11 that I recommend to you. So, it's basically most of the album. This Means War, Bottoms Up, When We Stand Together, Midnight Queen, Gotta Get Me Some, Kiss It Goodbye, and Everything I Want to Do. Now, particularly, I really liked Everything I Want to Do. That was a nice one. It kind of reminded me of something Puddle of Mud did in their very early days. I really liked the way that it wasn't necessarily a metal song, but it felt almost like grunge or post grunge. And it was kind of good for them to sit there and do that just because I think Nickelback kind of was post grunge also. I'm starting to not remember now, but I do like when they do that, just because post grunge it's kind of weird just because it kind of comes about, but then these bands disappear for a few years and then the genre kind of disappears and such. But so I did like that song, and then Kiss It Goodbye kind of felt like, I mean, that one felt like a dancing rock song. I was kind of surprised by that one too. So that was another highlight, just because there's not really many songs like that on this album, Kiss It Goodbye. So yeah, I'll give it a 7.5, a 7.5 out of 10. I'm gonna give this album a 7.5 out of 10. Me liking 7 songs out of 11. I know that's difficult to top. I can't expect them to, get 10, 11, 9 songs, but it is outstanding. And just the fact that I guess the main complaint would just be the fact that I didn't like all 5 of the singles. I like 3 of them, but just to kind of say what other songs I would like. So and it's not like I'm hard to please. I mean, I don't like that vibe. I mean, I would obviously go out and purchase this album and listen to it like, a raving lunatic would that's a fanboy of them. But, just for me to kind of say, well, I get it would almost seem to depend upon the staying power of some of that. So, yeah. But yeah, 7 songs out of 11 that are enjoyable is absolutely outstanding. I think beyond any degree that should warrant like a purchase. I mean, you got your work songs, you got your party songs, you got your dance songs, you got your relationship songs. Basically has like the whole shebang. So that's kind of the thing is I think you have to take the 7.5 that I give this with a grain of salt just because if you like the songs I mentioned in addition to more songs in your own personal taste, so that should pretty much boost it up even higher as score. That is kind of the situation. So that's kind of where I from with that. It's taken as a recommendation more so than anything else. But yeah, so Social Score gets, a 9 just because it had that many singles, but yeah, I just only like 3 out of 5 of them, so that was kind of the situation there. But yeah, I mean, that's essentially outstanding. I mean, once again, you don't see too many albums anymore that have 5 songs on the radio like that, and three of them basically charted on the Billboard 100 in America, and the other 2 charted just specifically on the rock chart. So it's just Nickelback doing what they do mostly. They get their pop rock and that type stuff, radio ready stuff, and then they have the hard rock songs for their core fans. That's kind of how it was. It's an above average release.